Alright, and I believe we are live. As soon as I get the confirmation from Twitch. OBS says we're recording.
Oh.
Twitch, are you good? Are we good? Are we live? Are we dating? What? I'll turn on my little electronic candle that you also can't see, sadly. Okay, I think we are live. That's good. Yes? No? Maybe so? Yes. We are live. Yes. Okay. Cool. All right, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Once again, we are here with Once in a Queer Moon. I am Sylvie, and this is Kayleigh. Sorry, I didn't know you wanted to introduce yourself.
That's okay.
I would have let you otherwise.
Now they know that I'm Kayleigh.
Yeah.
That's what's important.
That is very true. I have my salt in a little plastic cup because we are going to talk ghosts and spooky stuff tonight. Yeah. Also, I want to make sure that my little pin is showing because I've got like a little Sam pin from Trick or Treat, which is a very cute horror movie. I really like it a lot. And yes, I said cute horror movie. It's kind of a comedic horror movie, I guess. Anyway. Yeah. Yeah, so we are going to talk about ghosts. So what would you like to start with of the many topics?
So, I guess we can start with our experiences.
Okay.
Because, well, I know that you've shared yours on stream before, but I haven't.
Yes, I would like to quickly throw out an addendum because I forgot. We should probably talk about what a ghost is, what a ghost is considered, and what kinds of ghosts there are.
Okay.
To kind of lay a baseline in case anybody doesn't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure people know, but
yeah.
So I would define a ghost as any remnant of a human or animal's soul or essence, depending on your theological beliefs, whatever you want to call it, that lingers on after death. So it can be
leftover life force.
Yes. So it can be, malicious. It can be nothing. It can just be very neutral. For me, I would say there are two different types of hauntings, and a lot of the different types of hauntings, like poltergeist, etc., sort of fall under the two categories. The first category is intelligent hauntings, which is exactly what it sounds like. They are hauntings that will respond to you. They can talk to you. They can knock on wood if you ask them to. They can, respond to questioning. Things like that. That is an intelligent haunting. A residual haunting is a haunting that is kind of, once heard it described as like a videotape or a recorder that just plays over and over again. So it's not going to respond to you. It's just going to keep on doing whatever it was that it was doing and playing on repeat over and over and over again. So, did you have anything to add?
No.
Okay.
Very good explanation.
Thank you. All right, I'll let you start with your paranormal experiences then, because I know you are chomping at the bit to share, and I'm excited to hear.
I am. Yes. Okay, so, have I told you any of my experiences?
I don't think that you have either.
Okay, because we were just talking before we went live about how I had never heard Sylvie's.
Yeah.
So, if we haven't heard each other's, then that's... Anyway, so when I was 7 years old, my mom died of cancer, which is important context, because she was also a firm believer in the paranormal. She was Wiccan, and so my belief is that whatever you believe in happens after you die. And so that kind of means everybody is right in their religious beliefs. But she firmly believed that ghosts and spirits and stuff were real. She was a huge fan of the show Ghost Hunters. Would watch it all the time. So my first paranormal experience, I think, was when I was 8. It would have been like a year after she died. And before she got like super sick and like couldn't get out of bed, she used to tuck me in and would sit like next to my head while I was falling asleep, until I fell asleep. And so one night while I was trying to fall asleep, I had a memory foam mattress, and I felt like a depression happen next to my head. And I woke up and turned on the light, and you could see like the impression of someone who was sitting there, like rising up in the memory foam. And so that was my first experience, and I knew exactly that, like, that was my mom. Like, she came back, which was nice. So that's probably the most heartwarming one that I have. Then, so also contextually relevant is the fact that I experienced a lot of traumatic events in the span of the following year or so. And it's also my understanding and my belief that there are kinds of ghosts that will latch on to negativity. And so they don't necessarily have to be connected to you or to the location that you're at. They just sense that a lot of bad shit happened, and then they went and, like, attach themselves to it. So, after all of that trauma, my house was totally haunted. And one time I was playing with, like, a Barbie house, and I had decorated it for Halloween. So I had, like, a little skull keychain, and I hung it from, like, the banister. And so it was just kind of dangling there. And I would get in these, like, modes where I would just kind of space out and daydream and, like, just stare at one spot. And so I was doing that. I was just kind of staring at the keychain, and it moved.
Ooh.
And I was like, whoa, what's going on? And I kind of looked over at my closet door, which was white. And I stared some more. And then I did that thing where you close your eyes and, like, the impression of what you were looking at was, like, burned into your retinas or whatever. And there was, like, the figure of a person standing there when I closed my eyes, which I see while I was, like, with my eyes open. So I thought that was interesting. And, well, I was terrified at the time, because I was, 8 or 9.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, so there's that, and then when I was probably 9 or 10, I remember I was going to the bathroom, and there was a shampoo bottle on the floor, and I was just kind of looking at it, and it rolled, like, a foot or two.
Ooh.
And then stopped, and then rolled back to exactly where it was. And yeah, that was that was also like totally explainable. So there's that. Then when I was, how old was I? I was 16. I discovered, I moved to a different house in a different city. Mm-hmm. And I discovered a paranormal investigation group that was local to my area. And so I just kind of sent him an email like, hey, I'm a big believer in this kind of stuff and I want to help out. Because, you know, ever since all of this stuff happened, ever since my mom died and all of my experiences, I had always felt like presences. Oh, the creepiest one. I have to talk about my creepiest one.
Yes.
I think I was 9. Like all of my paranormal experiences happened in one like sitting.
Oh God.
So I had a dog at the time. His name was Wiley, and he was a German Shepherd Basenji mix.
Aww.
And my dad was taking him for a walk, so both he and the dog were out of the house. And I was sitting and watching TV, and the way our TV room was set up was the back of the couch was against like open air, against the back of the room or the rest of the room. And I felt like a wet dog nose nuzzle into the back of my head. And I turned around and I was like, Wiley, and there wasn't anything there. And then like literally probably 30 seconds later, my dad walks in the door with Wiley. So like I don't know what that was because I never had a dog before. Like Wiley was my first dog. And so I don't know if any other dogs died in the house or whatever. So yeah, that's the freakiest one, I think.
A hellhound just wanted to give you a friendly boop.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, it wasn't malicious at all. It was just a little dog nose.
Yeah.
Like, the back of my head. It was.
Aww.
Yeah.
The doggo that lived before wanted to see if you were a good person.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So, anyway, Paranormal Investigation Group. Mm-hmm. They, for whatever reason, even though I was 16, let me join. And, like I said, I've kind of always had this sense of, like, I've always felt sensitive to people's souls. Mm-hmm. And that carries on after they die. So, like, if their soul is still around, I can still feel it. I'm very much an empath in that way that, like, I can feel when a soul hurts, you know? Or when it's happy or when it loves, you know, that kind of thing. The kind of emotions that are soul deep, you know? Mm-hmm. So I joined the group as a sensitive, and I would say probably 70% of the places we went were haunted. But we went to a local theater, like a movie theater, and one of the weirdest experiences I had was at the theater when we went up to the projector room where there was like a private bathroom. And I remember I just kind of poked my head in there just to kind of get a feel for the space. And I closed the door behind me. And I heard the faucet of the sink, like, turn on full blast.
Ooh.
And, like, I just kind of stood there until it stopped. And I was like, okay, that was definitely the sink, right? And I went in and I turned on the sink full blast, and it was the exact same sound. Didn't hear it again the rest of the night. So that's probably one of the craziest experiences I've had as a paranormal investigator. Other than that, it was really just like feelings that I got, and not really like evidence. We didn't get a whole lot of evidence. So yeah, those are my stories.
I feel like getting evidence in a paranormal investigation is pretty rare.
It is.
Like, even on Ghost Adventures, they, like, come away with, what, like, 2 or 3 usable clips after being there for how many hours, you know?
Night.
Yeah. For being there until, like, 3 a.m. to, like, 6 a.m. in the morning sometimes, you know, it's like... They get, like, what, like...
Evidence review is the worst part of investigations.
Yeah.
It's so tedious.
I would imagine, because it's like editing, you're going through like a bunch of audio and just like,
but like it's 6 hours of footage. Like
that's like editing a movie.
From a bunch of different cameras, from a bunch of different microphones. Like,
yeah, I can't imagine. Now I have so much respect for the editors of like the paranormal shows.
Yeah,
it's like, and the paranormal investigators who must do all the editing, because God.
Like, that's insane.
Nobody's looking at like what time the camera says when they do that. Nobody's like marking it. What the fuck? I'm sorry to hear weird sounds now.
Like I think the way that Ghost Hunters does it, or did it before, was that the team members would review the evidence and then like mark the interesting stuff that they were going to show, and then give that to the editors.
Yeah.
Which would make sense.
Yeah. Because on top of the audio and stuff like that, that's got from the actual investigations, like, they have to edit the show. So, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So, I guess I'll go into mine. I was reminded of a couple of, like, I guess I'll go, like, most minor to most relevant. Because I think I've always been sensitive, like, even from the time I was a kid, but I never knew, like, because I, like, lived in my own little, like, imaginary world as a child, I never really, like, thought about being able to see ghosts. Like, my mom didn't believe in it, like, my dad didn't believe in it, like, my family did, like, not believe in ghosts at all. And if I got scared, they'd always say, like, oh, there's no such thing as ghosts, there's no such thing as that. So I never really kind of came into my power until much later in life when I started getting into paganism. But, so a lot of my experiences, like, my real experiences, are from later in life. Because a lot of the stuff that happened when I was a kid, I think I just wrote off. And it was never really significant anyway, because I think, like, because, like, I was so shut off to the fact that, like, ghosts don't exist, I don't think I was, like, tapped into my full potential, if that makes sense. And I kind of rediscovered it later on. But now, as you were talking, I was like, oh, yeah, because, like, I remember, like, I would feel animal spirits a lot. Like, I remember, and this happened to me in college, but I remember being, like, very affected by, like, a dead cat that I saw that had been hit by a car as I was, like, driving to, like, Quick Check or something like that. Like, I just, like, saw a dead cat in our street, and, it made me, like, very upset. And I've always felt like, I mean, this is more, like, witchcraft stuff, but I've always felt, like, able to communicate with animals in a way. And it's not... Sorry, go ahead, what?
I was just saying, I feel that way with cats. And it reminded me of another story that I forgot to tell, but go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're going to be doing that all night, I feel like.
Yeah.
Oh, this reminded me of this. Yeah. Hold on to the nugget. But I remember, like, yeah, like, I don't think, like, I've never heard an animal, like, speak English to me. It's more about, like, feelings, and, like, I don't know, being able to, like, read body language and stuff like that. But I remember, like, there were a couple of things that happened to me that were related to animals. I think the one that I found the most strange was, like, I remember I was going home from somewhere. I think I'd, like, come back from the mall or whatever. You know, just, like, normal stuff that I did, like, every day in the summertime, a couple of years ago. And I remember, like, I was taking the turn onto my street, from, like, a T intersection. Because I live down the street from a school, so, like, there's the school one way, and then, like, my house and the rest of the, living, I don't know. I didn't want to say
residential area.
Yeah, residential area. I don't know why I was thinking cul-de-sac, because it's not a cul-de-sac. But yeah, so I was going towards my house, and as I was at that T intersection, I saw a dog, that I'd never seen before, because we have a lot of neighbors with dogs and stuff like that, but I'd never seen this dog. I remember it was this little black and white kind of Shih Tzu looking thing, and it just, like, it was sitting, it was like sitting and waiting at the crosswalk like a human. And then I pulled up to stop at the stop sign. It crossed, and then stood and looked at me at the other side of the crosswalk as I turned to go home. So it was very strange to me. I was like, oh, what? Because I was like, if it was somebody's pet that got out of their yard, you'd think you'd see a human, you know, wandering frantically after it, or at least being somewhere nearby and calling to it. I mean, it could have been a lost dog, but, like, you know, I was like, in broad day, like in broad daylight, you think somebody would have seen it. So it was just like it was like a very weird thing, and then I never saw that dog again. Like, I didn't see it, like, anybody walking it. I never saw it, like, wandering around. Like, I never saw it again. So, like, I don't know what's up with that. But yeah, cool stuff. And actually, like, the past couple of days, I've been seeing a lot of vultures. And that's not unusual because
vulture in real life.
You've never seen a vulture?
No, I don't think so. We don't have them up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, well, I see them all the time. So this is not, like, it's not unusual for me to, like, see a vulture around a dead body, because, like, you know, we have a lot of deer around here, and deer die by car. So it's not uncommon to see them around a dead body, but, excuse me, I saw, like, a couple, like, I remember it was, like, 2 days in a row, I saw a vulture where there were no people around. So I was like, this is interesting. I wonder what it means. Because definitely all those things are always like a sign of some kind. So haven't looked into it yet, but I'm gonna try and see if I can figure out what they're trying to tell me. And but yeah, like, I remember, like, there were I'll kind of, like, finish my thought, and then I'll let you tell your story. But as far as the small anecdotes go, I remember, like, my uncle used to have cats. They were named Kitty and Taffy, pretty basic names. And what?
Creative.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, but I remember being very close to Kitty, and she was, like, the older cat, and she was a beautiful, like, mix of a tabby cat. Like, she had, like, this beautiful, like, brown and red and, like light brown and dark brown mottled sort of back, and she had, like, a white belly and white paws, and I remember that she had a lame paw as well. So but yeah, like I remember like she would always like sit on my lap and purr, and like I'd talk to her, about like stuff that was going on at school or whatever. Cuz I was young at this time. And struggling a lot with school. And I just needed somebody to talk to because nobody would listen to me. Um so I talked to the cat. And I just
They're
remembered
good for
like
that.
yeah. And I just remember that she'd like, sit and purr, and like if I was getting upset, she'd like reach her paw towards my hand. Um, like kind of comforting me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember like being really devastated when she died. Because she was really old, and I think she was like, I don't remember what happened. I think she was like sick or something. And so my uncle had to put her down. And I just remember like feeling so devastated because like I felt like I'd like lost a friend. Like I felt like I'd lost my pet.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Um and I remember like for a while like the house really like felt like it still had like Taffy died not long afterwards, and I just like remember like the feeling of the house after the cats had died, like the cats were not gone. Like I just remember like, you know, see like thinking that I heard or saw like paws on the stairs, or like the creak of the staircase as the cats would go up and down, um or like the brush of a tail around the corner. um I don't know, I don't know, I remember feeling like even bigger than that, like I remember like feeling their spirits just like in the house still, almost like a
Mm-hmm.
sort of human presence. Although not quite, but like I just remember being like so heavy in that house, not in a bad way, but just like they were still there.
Mm-hmm.
And that lasted for a good long time. Uh, I think until my uncle actually had their ashes done. So then I think that was when they were finally like laid to rest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he still has their ashes. They're still in his little shed where he works. Anyway,
Nice.
yeah. But yeah, go ahead and tell your anecdote, and then I'll continue.
Yes. So, between when I moved from the haunted house, actually, so I moved from the haunted house to another house, and then I moved to a different city.
Mm-hmm.
So, in between that second house and the different city, we had like a period of time where we didn't have anywhere to live because our previous house had sold already, but we hadn't closed on our new house yet.
Mm.
So we were kind of in a transitional period. So we were staying with a friend of my parents, and I remember being really stressed out. It was summer, so I didn't have to go to school or anything, but I was really stressed out, and I was on an air mattress in the basement, and I just remember like trying to fall asleep so so hard. I was trying really hard, and I just felt, and I did have a cat at the time who was staying with us, but I felt a cat like come up onto the air mattress and curl up like around near my stomach or whatever, and just kind of fall asleep. And I went to go pet it, and my hand just went right down under the sheets. There was nothing there. And it was such a distinct feeling of just a cat, which is weird because like I'd had cats who had died before, but I also had 2 living cats at the time. So it was weird to me that I was feeling the presence, it felt like the presence of one of my cats that was alive. And I don't know why he wouldn't have just come up and cuddled with me in person. You know, like, why'd you have to astral project But yeah.
Mm. Well,
that was the story.
That kind of stuff is interesting too, because like it could be like, you know, a spirit animal, or it could be like, you know, like there's some weird theories about like, I'm thinking of Haunting of Hill House too now, but like ghosts being out of time. So like, you know, it could have been a future cat, which is why you felt like so strongly that it was yours.
Yeah.
You know, or like it could have been a past cat, like who knows. But yeah, that's interesting.
I do have a ghost cat that follows me around.
Aww.
Like, another time I was washing my face, and I remember, like, right before I went to, like, go rinse, I saw the door behind me in the mirror, like, kind of drift open a little bit, like a cat was going through, you know? And I looked to see if one of my cats was there, because I have 2 cats. They're different cats now, but I have 2 cats, and I looked to see if it was one of them, and it wasn't. So, yeah, I have a ghost cat.
Yeah.
And I've seen, like, a little fluffy tail disappear around corners, you know? Like a fluffy white tail, which neither of my cats are white. And I don't think I've had a cat with a white tail ever in my life. So.
One just found you in the afterlife and wants to look after you, I guess.
I guess.
This one. I will choose this human. It shall be mine.
I had a theory because my neighbors tend to get cats as, like, barn cats as pest control. But they don't actually get barn cats that were bred to be that way. They get, like, cats from the shelter. And so they're not super well acquainted with outdoor life. And so they disappear a lot. Because we live out in the middle of the woods where there's coyotes all over the place. Coyotes, raccoons, hawks. We've got hawks, eagles. So cats can disappear on a moment's notice. And so I have a theory that the ghost cat is one of those cats that got eaten by a coyote or something.
Yeah. It wanted a better house.
Yeah.
And it was after I was like, screw that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that at least one of those cats has found its way into somewhere nicer, because that is a terrible thing. Like, I feel a certain kind of way about feral cats in general. Like, I'm not sure how I feel about TNR, especially with, like, you know, the fact that cats are really bad for bird populations. Like, it's not a good idea. I think in general. I don't know how I approve of cat colonies or things like that. I don't know how I feel about that. In cities and stuff. But like, to take, like, I can see them as a use as barn cats, because, like, you know, that's a good use for them, and then they're acquainted with life on the outside, so they're less likely to get in the way of a predator, I would assume. And then they're totally fine, because you don't have to pet them, and they're fine. But yeah, it seems really cruel to me to take an animal that's obviously used to being like a pet, and force it to be outside.
Yeah.
That's not great.
Yeah.
So, boo on your neighbors is what I'm saying. Shame on them.
Yeah, they don't believe in pets. They have all kinds of livestock. They have a cow. They have chickens. But what's really sad is, I know, not to bring it down or whatever, but cow is a female.
Mm.
And they breed her, I think, like once a year or once every couple of years.
Mm.
And then they slaughter the baby and, like, have beef for a year.
Oh.
Which is an efficient way to do things, technically.
Yeah.
But the cow now gets, like, really protective because she knows that the baby's gonna get slaughtered. And it's so sad.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, I could never do farm life. It's not it's not cottagecore. It's brutal. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't do like livestock.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. I can do the remote living. I can do the growing food and whatever, but it's the slaughtering of the animals that really.
Yeah, I think if I had, cause like I've now we're just off topic entirely. That's okay though. I've toyed with the idea of getting like miniature cows because I think they're cute. So like if I were gonna like keep any sort of like livestock at all, I would do like miniature stuff.
Yeah. Well, you can do like cows and goats and sheep and whatever for milk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like chickens for eggs.
Yeah.
Chickens are bitches though. They're awful. I hate them. Like we have chickens at our house. They're the worst. I hate them. They're cute when they're this big, and then like.
And then they become dinosaurs.
Yeah, they're awful.
Yeah, chickens are.
They made me have like a weird fear kind of birds. I don't like being around birds anymore. It freaks me out.
Now I'm just thinking of like the Una's honest thing: sugar and pepper and sugar. Pepper and sugar. Hold me like a chicken. In my wings. Sorry.
Anyway. Back on topic.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Sugar and pepper. God. Sorry. Okay. Yes. So, what story should I tell next? Oh. I'll tell the one that happened in Salem because we went to Salem, Massachusetts, couple summers ago. I want to say like I was maybe sophomore in college, going into sophomore. I don't remember. But I remember like it was like the last big vacation we were ever gonna do because I was in college at that point and my brother was going to go into college. So my mom's like, we're gonna take like the last family vacation that we ever do.
Ever.
Yeah. The last like big vacation. For big spending and all that. So we went to, my mom really likes Moby Dick. So she wanted to go to wherever it was that happened in Connecticut. I don't remember. So we went like on a whole like upper northeast sort of thing. We went to Massachusetts to because my mom used to go to school there, but we went to Salem. And that was fun.
Yeah.
And like I didn't have a lot of experiences in Salem. I mean, I learned a lot. But yeah, I didn't really have like any like, you know, major supernatural experiences until
I was gonna say, why'd you bring this up?
Yeah, it's coming. So we were in this hotel, and it was a dog friendly hotel, so like we had the dog and everything. And my family wanted to go to dinner, but we couldn't leave the dog alone in the hotel room. So I don't know what was going on with me. I don't know. I was like, I hadn't slept well the last night. I wasn't feeling great, so I was like, I'll stay behind with the dog. And you guys can like bring me something from the restaurant. They're like, okay. So I'm alone in the hotel room with my dog. You know, I'm flipping through the TV, and I guess I'm getting kind of tired, so I like put my headphones on and I lay down. I'm like got my headphones in. I'm like trying to take like a little nap. My dog's at the foot of the bed, and suddenly, like through my headphones, I hear a woman screaming her lungs out, like screaming, screaming, screaming. And I sit up, startled. I like take my headphones out, and the room is completely silent. Like my dog is on alert and freaked out, but like the hotel's completely silent. Like there's not even anybody walking in the hallway. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? But like
Yeah.
I didn't tell anybody because I'm like, well, did I like dream it? Did I like And then my mom told us at the end of the trip, she's like, oh yeah, by the way, our hotel is haunted. My brother's like, what? And my mom's like, yeah, I didn't want to tell you beforehand. I was like, I heard a woman screaming in my headphones. You could have told me that. It would have explained everything.
Yeah.
My mom's like,
my
yeah, we
God.
specifically stayed on the haunted floor. I was like, okay, thanks, Mom. She was like, yeah.
Thanks.
She was like, yeah, apparently there's like a woman who screams in the hallway at night and people have like seen her and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, okay, that would have been so much nicer to hear.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it was, I don't think it was an intelligent haunting. I think it was residual.
Right.
But yeah, it was just like really weird.
Yeah.
Also, I want to make it clear the song that I was listening to was like Britney Spears' Toxic, so it definitely would not have been like, I didn't listen to like heavy metal and try to go sleep to heavy metal, so it definitely wasn't like from my music. It was definitely like from somewhere else. But yeah, it like freaked me out. And I was like, okay, I turned on the TV again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's that one. And then like this kind of, well, before I go into work stories, I'll tell the other paranormal story that didn't happen at work, because most of my paranormal stories have happened at work. But so when I was in high school, I think I was going into, no, was I just in senior year? I never remember. I never remember if I was just going into senior year or if I was already in senior year of high school. But my grandmother died around that time. And it was a death that like my family had been expecting for a while, because like my grandmother had a host of medical issues. She'd had a kidney and like a kidney replacement, and she had like a bunch of issues with like different medications being rejected by the foreign kidney and all kinds of issues with that. And she had like a heart condition at the time, so it was, it was expected, I suppose, by like everybody in the family except us, like my brother and I. So she died very suddenly, and like of heart failure officially. And at that point I had like, that was the point where I like completely lost like any Christian faith that I had. I was completely agnostic at that point, because I had never wanted anything to be more okay in my life than at that moment, and I just felt completely abandoned. So that was when I kind of like lost my faith for a bit. But I remember like it must have been, I don't remember. I remember my brother was at a baseball game, but I don't remember why. I don't know. So my whole entire family was like at this baseball game with my brother, and I was at home alone in the house with my dog. And it was pretty late at night. It was like 10 o'clock. I was like watching true crime stuff because I liked watching true crime at the time. And just sitting in the dark living room with like the TV going. I was like on my phone or whatever, half paying attention. My dog's like sitting next to me, or lying next to me. She's a tiny poodle. So we were waiting for, I'm waiting for my family to get home because I'm expecting them home pretty soon because it's like 10 o'clock at night. And my dog suddenly gets up and starts barking at the door. I'm like, there's nobody there. And I'm just like, I remember like standing and staring at like my dog just like barking. And like I remember like very vividly, as if like, it's like a flashback in a movie, my mom talking about roses. Because roses were like, red roses in particular were like my grandmother's favorite flower. And my mom said that she like smelled roses when my grandmother passed. So, um, I don't know how you could not believe in the paranormal after seeing that, but
yeah, really.
but and um, so my sorry, I saw a chat message and I'm like totally thrown off. So I remember like hearing that vividly in my head, like hearing roses, and like just getting this like image in my head of like roses, and like roses growing in a garden, and it just kind of like, and then it passed, and then my dog was okay, and she like settled down and came back to lie down, and I was like, weird, okay. But I think that was like my grandmother just like telling me that, she was okay and gone to the other side and all that stuff. So, it's like she came back to say goodbye because she didn't get a chance to. So, yeah. So yeah, I think that's what that was. Hold on, I saw a message. We're doing the podcast, so please feel free to share it later when we have our question and answer segment. But thank you for sharing. I didn't even see your username, but thank you. Okay. Well, that Streamlabs command didn't work. Okay, whatever. I explained it. Okay. Let's see. Work stories. So, I work in an old museum. It's an old mill. That's the main building. And there's a bunch of like little museums that are in it and around it. Or no, not museums, historical buildings. Sorry. So they're all like this like little historical village of sorts. And yeah, so I've worked there for like 4 years, and like I've had a lot of weird stuff happen to me. But like I was telling Kayleigh before, when you work around ghosts, if they're not negative, they kind of start to feel like coworkers. So it's just like, hey, how's it going? But I remember the first paranormal experience that I had was excuse me, gassy today apparently. One of the worst, one of the scariest experiences that I had. I mean, it turned out okay, but it was like a very scary, like, sort of thing, at the time. So,
remembered another one. Continue.
Sorry. Okay, no, it's fine. So, yeah, I remember like I had just gone through like a period of training for the mill, and then like I was about to it was like the night before like I did my first tour like on my own, and I'd gone to bed like kind of late, or no, maybe it wasn't, I don't know, I don't remember, but I was the next time I would have worked would have been like a time that I was doing a tour and actually working. So I gone to bed kind of late. It was like 3 a.m. in the morning. College student hours. um, and so I'm lying down to go to bed, and my bed was in a different position than it is now. Now it's against the wall, like right next to my door. But at that time, it was on the opposite side of my room. So it was, so I was facing the door. Let me tell you, that was eerie. So I remember like I was just settling down to go to sleep, and then I hear my doorknob rattling. Now I know nobody in my house is awake, and if they were, they probably would have just come into my room because my mom doesn't know how to knock, like most moms. And I know my dog can't be doing it because my dog is too small to reach the door. So if she had been trying to get into my room, I would have heard scratching, not the doorknob rattling. So I'm like, okay, that's weird. And I was like, okay, whoever you are, go away. I was like, no. And, you know, because, like, occasionally I'll get, like, spirits following me home, but I tend not to engage for a very specific reason, which is a story I'll share later. Um, I just tend to tell them to go away, this is my space, etc. But I hear a very angry voice back, "What are you doing at the museum? Like, what are you doing at this place? This is mine. Why are you here? Why are you trying to do that?" Like a ranting, angry spiel of like basically like, why do you want anything to do with the museum? And I was just like, okay, like, you know, I'm just like, because I remember like I had to like speak under the tirade, like it did not stop. I was like, okay, like, you know, I'm passionate about history. I want to teach people about the, you know, the museum's past. Like, I like the people there. I think the mission is good, et cetera, et cetera. Just trying to like, you know, calm this spirit down enough to leave me alone. And then suddenly, like, the tirade stopped. The oppressive energy that had like been in the room just like left, faded out, and I was like, okay, that was weird. And so I remember like the very next time I was there, I had like one more training session to go. I remember it now. I had one more training session to go. And I was shadowing somebody else who was my age. And she was also a sensitive, so it was kind of cool to like meet somebody else who's like sensitive and like because it's always nice to have somebody confirm what you're seeing or hearing is real. um so I remember like we're hanging out at, like the blacksmith shop, which is like basically like time off for tour guides because we don't have to do anything, there's a separate presenter in there. So I remember like she and I are just kind of like quietly chatting, trying not to like interrupt or anything like that. And like, you know, we got to a point where we're like a comfortable lull in our conversation where we're both looking at our phones. And I remember feeling watched, so I like turned around. Um, and the main building, the mill, the main building of the museum. We usually keep the what is supposed to be a fire exit door, but it's not a fire exit door because we all use it normally. Open during tours so that like, you know, people can go in and out pretty easily down the back of the building. So I see standing in the doorway, watching me, like staring right at me, this gentleman with like a little like newsboys cap kind of thing, and suspenders and like a white shirt underneath. And he's like, you know, he's got like gray pants or something like that, and just like standing at the door staring right at me. And I'm like, so I go over to the girl who was with me, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna sound weird, but do you see someone standing like in the doorway over there? So I go to point, and she's like, oh yeah, like, is he wearing like a cap with like I'm like, yes. And she's like, oh, that's weird. Okay, she didn't think anything of it, but like I felt it was very significant because I felt like that was the spirit who had visited me. And I later learned his name. His name is Ralph, and he was one of his significance is he was one of the original owners of the mill, but he apparently did some very bad things, and the entire town hated him, so he got like run out of town essentially. And you know, they don't know what happened to him, but apparently his spirit ended up back here. Um, and he is actually the only poltergeist that anybody at the mill has ever reported. Oh. So, because like I remember the story that I was told about him was like there was like very brief because it's not my story. There was this tour guide group, which is very common, obviously. And one of the parents had like stepped away for a bit to like use the restroom, whatever. She gets out of the restroom. There's some angry person in colonial garb, like costume garb, yelling at her like, "What are you doing here?" Like what, like basically the same thing that Ralph said to me, getting very very angry about like a presence that was foreign. And she was like, look, I just want to get back to my tour guide group. And like, apparently like he left her alone after that. But we only found out about it because, or the museum only found out about it because that parent had like written in complaining about like the employee who had been really mean to her. And like my boss was like looking around. It's like went to her boss and was like, we don't have anybody who works there who looks like that, who matches that description. They were like, oh, it's the ghost. So yeah, fun fact. Yeah, I got visited by a poltergeist and survived. That could be a clickbait video. Anyway, you said that you had a story to tell, so.
Oh yeah. So not only did I grow up in a haunted house, but I also had a friend who lived in a haunted house as well. And I used to spend the night at her house a lot while my dad was, he was a single dad who was working. And so I remember one time she had one of those like electronic moving paintings kind of thing. Like you plug it in and it makes sound, and it was like a waterfall and whatever, and it moves. And I remember we were in a basement and she was telling me about it because it hadn't worked in like a year or so. And it was unplugged. Like you could see the cord sitting there, unplugged. And she was just telling me about it. And in the middle of her talking, it turns on for like a brief second and then stops. And that was one of the I feel like every time I talk about stuff, it's like, that's one of the craziest experiences of my life. But, like, it was freaky for a 9-year-old,
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that was the other one.
Yeah. Yes, on to other work stories. So, I'll tell like a general story because I've not had one but multiple experiences with this specific ghost. So this guy, as it's an old mill, there were a lot of accidents that happened. Think any Victorian show that you've seen that kind of like shows like a factory or like a cotton mill. The one that always comes to mind to me is North and South, which is like a lesser known British drama, but if you've ever seen any clips of North and South where they're inside like the cotton mill, that's kind of like what oh, my candle is flickering, I better turn it off. Ooh, that's kind of spooky actually. I just realized, I was like, oh, I'm talking about Frank, the spirit that has followed, that usually follows me home. Okay. Might have been Frank. All right, it's fine. If it's Frank, it's fine. I'm not worried about him. But yeah, so if you've ever like seen any clips from like North and South, that like whole mill factory Victorian era, that's always kind of what, I would imagine the mill was like, except that it was it wasn't cotton, it was like a food mill. And then it was like a grist mill after that. So yeah, different stuff, but like same general idea, same dangerous atmosphere. So one day, there was in the mill, there's a giant hopper, which if you play Minecraft, you might know kind of like what that is and what that does. But it's basically a giant funnel, and the one that we have in the museum is like a giant ass funnel because it went all the way through the building to the bottom floor at one point. Obviously, it doesn't anymore, but it did at one point. And so it's very deep. And it used to be somebody's job to walk across like a tightrope beam in the center of it. And somebody, one day, there was a man who fell in and suffocated because nobody could like hear him over the machinery. that he'd fell in, so he unfortunately suffocated. And, we have a picture of him. If you ever come visit me, Kayleigh, I'll take you to the picture and show you. But yeah, we know who it is, who it was who fell in. So yeah, pretty cool. But yeah, he's allowed me to call him Frank, but he's a bit of a jokester, so I've also heard, frankly, I'm the one who fell in the hopper, so, I don't know if Frank's his real name, but it's been adopted, so we call him Frank now.
Okay.
And he's a bit of a trickster. The reports around him usually center around him smacking women's butts, or pulling on their hair, kind of being a little bit tricky, a little bit, ooh, I like your butt, kind of thing, a little bit flirtatious. Like I said, he's followed me home multiple times. I've never had an issue with him. He's never freaked me out. He likes to goof around, so I've never had an issue with him. Which is why I've never had, like, one, experience with him. I've always had, like, multiple experiences, just because he is the one I see the most often. But one thing that I always find interesting about his ghost in particular is so at the museum, we're not supposed to talk about anybody, any ghosts or anything like that. We're not supposed to talk about it to the kids for obvious reasons. We don't want anybody to get freaked out. Some of the local kids who live in the area know that we have, like, ghost tours and the haunted mill and all that, so they know about it. So if we try to deny it, they're like, but my mom said. So, I mean, what are you gonna do? That it's the parents' fault. But yeah, to the other kids, we don't say anything about it. But I never get any questions about anybody dying anywhere, except in the hopper room. Without fail, I'll always get one kid who asks, did anybody ever die here? And I'm always like, oh, okay.
Oh.
And actually, one of the most interesting things about Frank is, like, whenever I have kids there, like, we have, like, a giant, like, wooden, like, fence that is, like, 3 inches thick, at least, that, built around it to, like, protect people from falling in, so, like, nothing falls in. But, like, I'll get kids who, like, stand on the little ledge to, like, look in, and occasionally I'll see Frank going around the edges and going, like, pushing up, like, don't, go back, stay back, kind of thing. So that's always very interesting. But yeah, I'll often see Frank in the window of that door as well, just kind of, like, waving, like, hi, hello. So yeah, that's Frank. And then we get to the little girl ghost there, Nancy. Again, I don't know if that's her real name, but that's kind of like the name that came to me in relation to her, so that's kind of like what I go off of. And I actually learned about on one of the ghost tours. So my brother and I actually went to, like, one of the ghost tours they were doing, like, just for fun, whatever, because my brother doesn't believe in ghosts. So we were going through, and our tour guide stops on the second floor and is talking about how there was a little girl who came to the mill one day with her father, and she fell down one of the trapdoors that they used to, like, with a pulley system in conjunction with a pulley system in order to, like, bring barrels and stuff like that, like, between the different floors. So she fell down the trapdoor and died on the floor below. And as the tour guide is talking to me, I feel beside me a sensation that can only be described as, like, a small child coming up and standing next to you, kind of like wanting your attention, that sort of thing. So I look down, I see, like, a flash of blonde curls, and, like, a little pink dress. So I reach my hand down, kind of, like, cupped open as an invitation, and I feel a small hand go into mine, and we held hands for a little bit. Yeah. And Nancy is a very shy spirit. I don't often see her a lot. Although whenever I go to open the building, I will see her sometimes peeking out of the door on the second floor, and I'll go, "Hi, Nancy." She'll kind of like wave back like shyly, like a shy little kid. And I won't ever see her once the lights go on. I only see her when the lights are off. So usually the last place I'll see her is hiding in the shadows by the door into our wheelhouse, which is where the old wheel for the mill used to sit. Now it's just like a lecture hall sort of thing, but it used to be where the wheel is. Wheel was. So wheel was. That's a tongue twister. Try saying that 5 times fast. But yeah, she's really sweet. Oh, and I have one more work story. This ghost I don't know. I've never seen. It might have been residual. I don't know. But so I used to work nights. At the mill, I used to work nights on weekends. And we'd have like 2 people running the weekend shift. And it would be just us 2 at the museum the whole day. So one day I was working it with the girl, the other sensitive, Raven, her name is, and we were, just about to like shut down for the night. She had just come back from locking up all the buildings. I was finishing up the cashier stuff. So, we had been talking, but, it's gone quiet. I'm just working on, whatever I have to do to finish up. She's on her phone. Suddenly, above us, we hear footsteps walking around. She's like, "Did you let anyone in while I was gone?" I was like, "No, we're like about to close up in 30 minutes. I wouldn't, And she's like, "All right, I'm going to go up and check just in case." So she went up and checked, and I hear her go up, and I hear her come back down, and she's like, "Nobody was up there." And I was like, "Huh." And she was like, "Huh." And we all just kind of, and then we went like, and then we just went back to work. So, yeah. So that's kind of the last one that I have from my job. But did you said you thought of something, did you? Or no?
No, I didn't.
Okay. I'm hearing things apparently. All right. I'm trying to decide if I want to tell this. I guess I should, because we're gonna be talking about like the do's and don'ts of paranormal stuff. We're gonna talk about Ouija and being mediums and things like that. So I guess it's time for me to hold salt in my hand because I'm scared. I did a protection ritual before this, but I have salt as an extra precaution. Okay. I'm imagining my bubble of safety. Okay. So I had a period of, I want to say maybe it lasted a week or so, where I believe I was visited by a demon, and if it was not a demon, it was a very negative spirit, very angry spirit. But I usually just call it a demon. So my brother was away at college, and while he was away at college, he and I briefly switched rooms. So he had my room, which is the room that I'm sitting in now, and I had his room, which is across the hall. So at the time, I was, I'm not much like this anymore, but for quite a while, for quite many years, I used to get very paranoid about horror films, horror games, horror anything. And it used to freak me out quite a lot. So like seeing something scary would stick with me. So at that time, I was very paranoid about Five Nights at Freddy's. Don't ask, those robots are kind of creepy.
It's valid.
Yeah. So I kept feeling this like very negative, very intense, scary presence for the better part of a week. And I just kept writing it off like, I'm sure it's just, I'm scared of Five Nights at Freddy's, like it's nothing, like this is normal. And then I woke up one day and on my thigh I saw 3 scratches in a row. I don't own a cat. They were too big for a cat anyway. I sleep in long pants generally, so it's not like I could have done it. It was in a very deliberate place on my thigh where I could not have done it by accident. And generally, like, my nails are long, but they're not claws. Like, they would not have been able to do that. I know, I've tried to self-harm with my nails. It's very hard, so it wasn't from me. And if you don't know, whenever you see 3 scratches on your body, that's usually a sign of a demonic presence, because the 3 mocks the Trinity, the Holy Trinity. So, needless to say, I was very freaked out. And sure enough, that night, it made its presence known. I just remember seeing at the foot of my bed, or my brother's bed technically, but this, like, black mass with horns, like, very stereotypical demon appearance, with, like, the glowing red eyes, all that. And just, like, I don't think it said anything. I don't think it spoke to me. I think it was just negative energy. So I closed my eyes. I faced away from it. I said, "You have no power here. I am backed by powerful. I am backed by powerful gods, powerful spirits. Nothing negative is allowed here, and you need to go away." And I just kept repeating it and repeating it over and over and over again. And I remember feeling this, like, swirling miasma around me, like it was trying to get inside me. And, like, possession is scary. Like, I think horror movies like to joke around about it. And, but it can be scary. The threat of it even is terrifying. So, I just, I can feel the power of my gods. Thank God, like, I was, very, like, thank God I was in good graces with my gods at that point, because, they were behind me and pushing back and helping me push away this dark entity. And eventually it did leave. And I just, it was like a vacuum had just, like, it sucked out all of the energy in the room. And I just felt, like, very exhausted after that and, like, fell asleep. But the demon was gone. It did not bother me again that summer. It has not bothered me since. But ever since then, I personally have decided that I will no longer work as a medium unless I feel safe in the space and I know the ghosts personally. So I used to do astral projecting. I don't do that anymore.
That can be kind of dangerous.
Yeah. I don't do spirit or medium work. I don't try to talk to ghosts that I don't know. Or that, like, I can't feel or see exactly what they are. I've just not used my powers really, except to talk to the ghosts that I know. So, yeah. That's my story, and I think it's a pretty good segue into what we're going to talk about next, which is Ouija boards.
Yeah. Fuck Ouija. I'm just gonna get that right now.
Yeah, you want to talk for a bit? I'm kind of shaking.
Yeah, so, well, first of all, I want to say I don't personally believe in demons.
Mm.
What I believe people perceive as demons are manifestations of their own negative energy.
Mm.
Because whenever you hear about like demonic possession and whatever, it almost always happens during a time of like great stress or great trauma. Or like it's just a bad time in a person's life, right?
Yeah.
So I believe that negative energy can manifest into things that can be perceived as like intelligent creatures, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that most of it is like psychological at that point. Not to say that it's not like the experiences aren't real. I'm not discounting that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But the human spirit is very strong, and when it believes that something is happening, it can manifest some pretty disturbing shit. So that's what I believe demons are.
Mm-hmm.
Ouija is, how do I even begin to explain why I hate Ouija? It calls upon things that it can call upon the fear in a great way, because a lot of the people who use Ouija are not well versed enough in their own fears and their own psychological standing. You have to be very psychologically secure in order to do Ouija properly, and even then you shouldn't do it at all.
Mm.
And so what I believe happens with Ouija is that people are so sure that they're going to contact something, and they're so afraid of what that something might be, that it becomes something.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's always a bad idea. It's always a bad idea. It's the best way to manifest bad shit into your life. Just don't do it. That's what I have to say on Ouija.
Yeah. Sorry, I feel very dazed after talking about that. Alright.
Right.
Just gotta recenter my energy. Alright. Yeah, I would agree on those points, definitely. Okay, it's an airplane. Alright. Yeah, I would definitely agree on those points. I would say that, in addition, there are a lot of, the thing about using the board as a sort of divination tool is that you really have, unless you are like sensitive and able to see ghosts, there really is no way to tell exactly who or what you are talking to. And there's no way for you to know that the spirit that's on the other end of the board is being truthful to you. I'm there. I mean, the movies have pretty much, terrified us of it. But in that case, I would say that's not far from the truth. You really never know what you're contacting. And I would not recommend doing it unless you're experienced with it. But if you're going to do it anyway and be stupid about it, learn from that new horror movie, The Host. Take it seriously. Don't do it with anyone who's going to laugh or joke around. And know the signs of a demon, negative spirit, whatever you want to call it. The infinity symbol, if the planchette continues to make a figure 8, that can be a sign of a demon / negative spirit. If anything, if you ask something its age and it says 0, that's a big no. That's a big negative. And then you need to close out the session properly. Never just leave the board open, because something could come out through the board, because you've invited it.
It doesn't matter how scared you get. Don't go, oh my god, and run away.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah, you have to.
If you're gonna do Ouija, you have to be serious about it, and you have to go through it. You have to go through with it. You can't just freak out and run away. And that's the case with every paranormal anything that you're gonna do. If you're gonna fuck around with that shit, you have to be. I'm sorry, I'm swearing so much, but I'm passionate about this.
Do it.
It's a mature stream.
Yes.
But if you're gonna fuck around with that, you have to be willing to follow through and to do things properly.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you could be inviting some really bad things into your life.
Yeah. That's the thing about the board and anything basically. Even pendulums, things like that. You are inviting something. And that's why it's very important to, go through with it, close out, do everything you can to stay safe. You can't like Kayleigh said, you can't just freak out and leave. It's not a game. Even though Hasbro sells it as a game, it's not a game. It's a serious practice, and it can be dangerous.
Accidentally marketed a serious communication tool as a game.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I personally, I don't even have or want any materials that even resemble Ouija boards. I don't have any cool gothic t-shirts with the Ouija board stuff on it. I don't have planchettes, either real or on jewelry. I personally believe that any of that would be inviting the energy of the Ouija board itself into my life, and that is not an energy that I want. So yeah, my approach to the spirit world has been no unsolicited callers for many years, and I do not want to break that streak. So.
Yeah. Another don't, if you're gonna be messing around with spirits and shit, don't be mean.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if what you're talking to or who you're talking to is malicious. Nobody responds well to, being mean. Don't be mean. Be nice, be polite, ask nicely if you want them to leave you alone. Being mean will get you nowhere.
Yes.
And in fact, will often make things worse.
Exactly.
And that's a big thing that's the reason why I never watched Ghost Adventures, is because they would yell at the spirits and get mean and angry, and that's not how to deal with that at all.
Yeah, I would say if you're gonna talk to spirit, and God, Zach Bagans has like that horror museum too. We'll probably talk. I'm gonna save all of that for the Haunted Objects podcast, because we are gonna do a Haunted Objects podcast. But yeah, I mean, good for him for rescuing all those haunted objects, but I could not imagine what kind of nightmares he has invited into his personal space.
With his behavior as well.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, if you're gonna also Shane from BuzzFeed Unsolved, don't act like that. Please don't invite any spirit to touch you. Or
I don't know. I feel like there's a difference with them, though.
Yeah.
And, the difference is in intention. Because Shane, I can watch Shane Madej all day. I think he's hilarious.
I do too, to be honest.
Because he's joking. He doesn't believe in any of it.
Yeah.
And like I said before, if you don't believe in it, it's not real to you. So you're not necessarily inviting it into your personal space or into your life. But the way Zach Bagans does it is intentional. Like, intentionally trying to piss off spirits. Not for fun, not for jokes, like, for real.
And
that's
a good point.
That's not cool.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but I would say also, to add to that, yeah, if you believe in spirits, don't lie in the middle of a satanic pentagram. Just don't do it.
That's bad.
I would in fact say that for most things. So while we're talking about Ouija, I did not appreciate the way that they use the Ouija board on the goat bridge. I don't think it matters if you believe it or not at that point. Yeah, that's and then like Shane laying in the satanic pentagram, I don't know. I just
and that's disrespecting a religious icon.
Yeah.
Even though it is Satanism.
That's true too.
It's still
yeah.
So yeah, don't be purposefully disrespectful to get a reaction.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else we want to say about Ouija?
No. About Ouija.
I gotta watch this after stream, because like I like the guy who like reads the Yahoo Answers things, like the Luigi board, making a Luigi board. I'm gonna watch that to unwind after stream, because who? Yeah. Pergannon. How is Prangen formed? Yeah. Yeah, but it's all good. I feel a little bit better now, because I can feel Hecate standing at my shoulder. So that's good. Makes me feel better and protected. So we're good. I'm okay, guys. I'm gonna be fine. So we're good. But yeah. Shall we look at this article that I found? I'll copy it and send it to you, because I forgot.
Yes.
10 rules to follow if you want to survive a real-life horror movie scenario. Shall we critique? Because I think one of the things that I find interesting is the difference between, like, the portrayal of ghosts in horror movies versus the portrayal of, versus, like, what ghosts, quote-unquote, are in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always feel like ghosts and horror movies are always made out to be much scarier and always negative spirits. So obviously that has, for the most part, that has not been my experience with them. And you were talking earlier, so obviously that's not been your experience either.
No.
Okay.
Alright, so rule number 1, move away from haunted houses, or better yet, don't live there in the first place.
Yeah. The example they use is The Haunting of Hill House, which is definitely an extreme, yes. I would say, actually,
the Amityville Horror is such a good story.
Yeah.
Like, if you get the chance to read the book, please do, because it's really, really fascinating, super interesting. I actually listened to the audiobook. It's the only audiobook I've ever listened to, but I used to fall asleep to it.
I mean, you're brave.
Which is probably Huh?
You're brave to fall asleep listening to that.
I know. Well, it was an accident.
Okay.
But, you know, those are also the times when I've communicated with my mother through my dreams. So, you know.
Go to sleep listening to murder, communicate with your mother in the dream. Good times.
Yeah. So, they're saying also that principle goes for houses built on top of grave sites. And they didn't mention the house from Poltergeist, which, like, how dare they?
Yeah.
That's such a good movie.
It is a good movie.
Yeah.
As far as that advice, I mean, yeah, I guess. But, like, see, the thing is, that, again, this assumes that every spirit in the world is negative.
Yeah.
Which, yes, you can live in a space where a spirit is negative, where either they don't want to accept that something else is living in their space and they want you to leave, or whether it's invited in through questionable means. Yeah, ouija, like we just talked about, any kind of, I mean, I don't want to bash Satanism, but sometimes satanic practices can invite those kinds of negative entities, depending on, again, it's all about intention. So depending on those kinds of things, you can invite negative things into your space. As one memorable thing that I recall from a TV show called Paranormal State, someone complained.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Someone complained about having paranormal experiences in their home from demons after getting the gates of hell tattooed on their back. So maybe don't do that. But I would say, if you live in a place that's haunted, or you happen to move into a place that is haunted, I would say,
get on good terms with the spirit.
I would say Yeah. I would, like I was going to say, 9 times out of 10, you'll be fine living there. You know, like Kayleigh said, get on good terms with the spirit. You know, claim your space, get to know them. You know, say hi if you notice them moving stuff, or if it's annoying, ask them to stop. Can you please stop moving my keys? You know, things like that.
What helps too is acknowledging their presence, because usually they do it for attention.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, acknowledge that it's in your space, and, you know, you'll get along fine most of the time, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never lived in a haunted space, but Kayleigh, you have, and you're here, so.
Yeah.
And alive and not possessed, so we're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Both of my parents are believers, or were believers in the paranormal. And both my current parents too, my stepmom as well. So I was never raised under the assumption that ghosts were not real. What I was raised under the assumption was that ghosts are real, but they're not scary.
Mm.
They're just people.
Yeah. That's true.
So, the next one here is always check the inside of your car, including the backseat and trunk or hatch, before you get into it. I have been taught this since I got a car.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is like common.
It's just something to do.
Being raised as a female, that's kind of, you know, something that's common knowledge. Yeah. Especially in dark parking lots. So, I mean, pretty good advice all around, not just for a horror movie.
Yeah.
For sure.
Next one is don't split up, even to go check something suspicious out. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Always stick together.
Use the buddy
my dad
system.
actually, I was raised in an RPG playing family, tabletop RPGs, and my dad actually made a T-shirt that said rule number 1: never split up the party, because you never ever split up the party. That's just asking for bad news. Yeah. So, yeah.
They have the Friday the 13th picture here. Yeah. If you find an ominous book written in a language you can sort of sound out but don't really understand, don't read it out loud. Yeah. I would. Yeah, I would say this goes along with, you know, don't deal with things you don't understand. Sort of thing. Yeah. Just leave it alone. Yeah.
Especially if it seems creepy or evil or like malicious in any way. Don't participate. Yeah.
Just don't do it. Actually, one of the things that I forgot about, but I found interesting while you were talking earlier, is that you talked about like being able to sense souls, and that's your kind of empathy. My kind of empathy is like very personal and internal, I feel like most of the time, as opposed to external. I mean, like I usually read small things like facial expressions, tones of voice, and those kinds of feelings is like usually what gives me my empath feelings. But one of the things I was talking about in the witchcraft podcast is that I have like a sort of ability to feel the energy of things in my power hand, which is my right hand. So I pick up a lot of the personal objects that I use in my practice with that. Just this sort of sense of like what's going to work with me, what's positive, what's negative. So I would probably be in the unique position to touch something ominous, feel it as a negative thing, and just go nope and leave it. But yeah, if you're not like me and you can't feel the energy of things based on touching it, just leave it alone. If it looks sus, leave it alone.
If you suspect something or someone is haunted or possessed, don't stick around trying to make contact with otherworldly spirits. That just seems like common sense.
Yeah.
Especially after everything we've talked about. Like, it's not fun and games, dude. This is another plane of existence that you're dealing with.
And if someone is acting strange in a space, and you suspect that something or someone is having influence over that person, it is best to get that person as far away from the place that you're at as possible. Because
out of there.
Yeah, because first of all, that is not a spirit that wants good for you. I have never had a positive spirit that has tried to take control of me in any way, shape, or form. I've had them try to guide me to certain places, but I've never felt like a spirit was trying to take control of me that I trusted. And, you know, like, they won't even ask. They won't touch that subject. But, you know, if you're encountering a spirit that is trying to get influence over you, no matter who they say they are, that is not a good spirit and you need to leave. Like, get out of the situation.
Yeah.
Because that is not a good idea. Ooh, I'm getting so emotional.
Next one is don't ever go into the basement or attic alone. I would
say they have a picture of Pennywise. Okay, sorry. That is the... Okay. Sorry, I'm mostly desensitized to, like, Pennywise and shit, but, like, that scene fucking gets me, dude.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, continue.
I would say it depends on the space.
Yeah.
Like, this could go for any space, really.
Yeah.
If it feels sus, don't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
That's just, I mean, like I said before, the human body and the human brain is capable of a lot, and the more scared you are, the more things you're going to invite toward you. And having somebody with you is going to make that fear dissipate quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're with somebody who is not very easily shaken by things like that. So,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would definitely say, like, if you're in a legit horror movie, then, yeah, probably a good idea to use the buddy system and go with somebody else. In general, in your own house, even if your house is haunted or whatever, you're probably fine in your basement or your attic. Like, most of the time, it's your space. You've claimed it. You know the spirits that are there. You live with them, alongside them. And you're gonna be fine. You won't encounter Pennywise in your basement.
Yeah.
Ooh, that picture haunts my dreams. Okay.
Never ever say "I'll be right back" or any variation on that phrase.
I don't know what they're talking about here. What is the example? Scream.
You're probably fine.
Yeah, I've never seen Scream, so I don't know that reference, but yeah, you're probably fine. I mean, like, you know, if you're on the phone with someone and you say that, just let them know that you're back. Or if there's something weird going on, let them know that there's something weird going on, you know. It's good to, if you're in a situation where, you know, like, you might have a possible home invasion, things like that, it might be good to tell somebody, like, hey, there's something weird going on. If I'm not back in X amount of minutes, can you call the police to my location or something like that?
Yeah.
But
I've done that before.
Yeah. But in, like, a general situation, you're probably fine. Again, that's kind of a common sense thing. It's like, you should know when to tell someone, hey, I'm a little bit worried about this situation. Can you stay on the line until I get back? And if I don't come back, can you call someone for me? You know?
Yeah.
You know also, those situations.
Don't ever... Like, I've watched a bunch of, like, reality docu-series shows. Like, I Shouldn't Be Alive, that kind of thing. And almost always, these people almost die because they went on, like, a hiking trip by themselves and didn't tell anybody where they were going.
Yeah.
Always tell somebody where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't matter how embarrassing it is or whatever, you gotta tell somebody, because that's the only way you're gonna survive if you fall off a cliff and shatter both of your legs and you can't move, you know?
Yeah.
Like, these people would have had a much easier time if, you know, the search party at least had a way of knowing the general location of where this person was.
I'm hearing a lot of noise from downstairs. Oh. Oh, it's my mom and grandfather. They're just talking loudly to each other. Okay.
Uh,
It sounded weird muffled through the door. It's fine. We're good.
Next one is stay out of the forest.
Yeah.
As somebody who lives in the forest, this is probably true.
I was gonna say, I was like, I wonder what she's going to say about this, but yeah. All right.
Yeah. I've gone out in my woods. You can see it through the window back here.
Trees.
And it gives me bad vibes just because I know there's predators out there. There's coyotes in those woods, you know, even if it's not a person.
Bears. Depending on where you live, mountain lions, things like that.
Yeah. We don't have bears or mountain lions in our woods, but...
We have bears here, but yeah.
We do have, I think we have, like, a family of bears in the general area, but not in, like, our secluded, like, acreage.
Yeah, not for me either. They crop up every once in a while. You hear reports of them, but like I've never seen one in my backyard.
Yeah, I've seen coyotes in my yard.
Sorry, I was reminded of the I don't know why Unis Honest is on my brain right now, but like the Google Translate thing, it's like, we got back to my backyard. Sorry. I don't know what, sorry. Okay, well, I mean, at least you know I'm normal.
Yes.
Alright, sorry. Yeah, I would second that. I live in a pretty suburban area, so, like, my quote-unquote forest is, like, a bunch of trees in my yard.
Yeah.
So... but, yeah, no, don't go there unless you know what you're doing.
Yep.
I could go for any wilderness thing. If you're a woman or a fab person, I'm gonna add in, and you notice that everyone else seems to be dropping like flies around you, oh, I see. Congratulations, you're a final girl, and you'll probably survive. Okay, this seems pretty specific to, like, horror movies in general, so...
Yeah.
I guess?
Yeah. I'm gonna skip over that one.
Yeah.
Don't think it's ever over. That's a really good tip for horror movies, actually.
Yeah.
I find myself yelling at the screen a lot when I'm watching horror movies, like, double tap! Always make sure they're dead!
Yeah.
You can't just, like, whack them in the head and they fall over and you think that's it. Like, no.
Yeah, pretty obvious horror trope there. But yeah, again, not something that you can apply to real life, I don't think. Because in real life, things are usually pretty simple. Like, it's pretty much one and done. Oh, that's the end. You know, person, your home invader that you've shot once in the chest, is most likely dead. Like, we're not talking about Freddy or Jason here.
Jason.
No, we're not fighting Jason. They're not an immortal zombie.
No.
So, anyway, cool stuff.
Yeah. I smell pizza coming from downstairs.
All right. Here's what we'll do. We'll do a chat participation section, and then we will end stream.
Okay.
All right. So let me see if I can scroll back up because I saw another long message. Okay. I wanted to say my friend came to see me. Oh, from Zane, by the way. I wanted to say my friend came to see me, and he said my grandmother was here. And I said, no, she died. He said out loud, he does not believe me. Then he said to me, you brought her something red when she was in hospital, and it was her favorite thing. So yes, I did do that. Now I believed him. He said, she is with your grandfather, and they are sending their love. So I just wanted to share it with you. Aw, thank you so much, Zane. I'm glad that you, that was a good thing. That was a nice thing. Yeah. I know you have a friend who's a medium, so that's good. Yeah. That's a really cool experience. Okay, yes. Okay, Zane says, yes, Alex always talks to spirits, but he does not like it sometimes. He can sometimes make me not feel pain if I get pain somewhere. He usually tries to ignore ghosts or spirits or whatever is around, but he said this time he wanted to relay the message because I am his friend. Aw, that's nice. That's a nice thing.
Yeah.
Squimble said something about Ouija. I know we've talked about this on the show before, but Ouija doesn't really take any spirits to know how to use it. It's just letters. Anyone can interpret it, which makes it very easy for amateurs to invite entities they can't handle. Yeah. Yeah, I think that is a very good point. Yeah. That is definitely a good point indeed. All right. Does anybody else have anything they would like to share? Is multiple personalities trap spirits? If you're assuming that. Oh, sorry. You go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't think so. I think multiple personality or dissociative identity disorder, which is what it's called.
Yeah.
Is a way to compartmentalize trauma. Again, not to discount anybody's like personal experiences with these things, but it's most often, from what I've seen and the research that I've done, which I have done some research on it, not extensive, but you know, yeah, I don't think there's anything paranormal about it. Yeah. I think it's just compartmentalizing trauma.
I would agree. I don't know. Again, I don't know a lot about the ID either. I just know a little bit. But yeah, from what I've seen and heard, yeah, I would not classify it as anything paranormal. I would. A lot of it, like Kayleigh said, is basically just dealing with trauma. It's basically just a way for the mind to adjust and compartmentalize. Thank you, brain. But yeah, not paranormal. Like I said before, though, like if somebody, suddenly starts showing a different side of themselves, and you don't think that they have DID, like if it's a negative thing that came especially from a certain place or a certain action, such as doing a Ouija board, then I would be cautious. But I also think, again, like in horror movies, possession is not as common as, like horror movies would have you believe. And it definitely looks different than horror movies would have you believe.
I think
so.
Also, honesty pacts are a really good thing to have. Especially when you're going into situations like this. If you decide that you want to call upon the spirit world or whatever, and you have your buddy, make sure that you make a pact with them that you're going to be honest. And don't ever write off any negative feelings you feel.
Yeah.
Be honest, communicate, talk about how you're feeling. And if the other person asks you, hey, are you okay? Be honest. Don't say, yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Let's keep going, If you have to stop, then make sure you close things out properly. But you can stop.
Yeah.
You're allowed. Yeah. I think that's something that I see in horror movies a lot that also makes me want to yell and scream at the television.
Yeah.
It was just like, communicate. Communicate, please.
Exactly. I've heard people with DID explain that basically they come from within the mind, not from outside. Yeah, that's kind of what I've heard as well. So Zane asks, why do some mediums not want to be mediums? As a medium who doesn't want to be a medium. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I don't want to be a medium. I would say that like I said before, I'm kind of a no unsolicited callers sort of medium. And that was because, like I said, I had a very negative experience with a very negative spirit, and I don't want to invite that sort of thing again. Because it was very scary. So,
Yeah, it takes a lot of energy. It's really kind of exhausting.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to reach out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say as also like, because I'm an intuitive tarot reader, so that also kind of takes a lot of like spiritual energy. So I often feel quite exhausted after doing several tarot readings in a row, just because it's a lot of it's very taxing to read the emotions of the cards and things like that, and try to like read the energy and things. So yeah, and I would say like also depending on like the type of medium that you are, you may be putting yourself into a lot of danger or through a lot of stress, to do these sort of things. Like if you're a channeling sort of medium, that I can imagine would take a lot of stress, things like that. And also I think different energy follows different people. Like if you're very like if you're not well protected for yourself, things can attach themselves to you. It happens a lot. So you kind of have to know like where your boundaries are as a medium, and if you don't, then things get attached to you, which may make you wish you weren't a medium, couldn't see these things, couldn't do these things, things like that. Yeah, Zane, you were saying that your friend has the gift but doesn't want to. Yeah. So
it's also when you're around skeptics, it's really difficult to not sound crazy.
That too.
So, like, fitting into regular society is weird.
Yeah. That too, as well. All right. I think unless somebody else, no. All right. Um, no final comments. So I think that is it for us. Kayleigh, I will let you go eat your pizza.
Okay, I will.
And I think we are gonna find somebody to raid on our side. So thank you so much, Kayleigh, for being on the show with me again. I missed you.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was really fun. Thank you guys all for being here, and I appreciate all of you.
See you next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Yeah, we shouldn't see any messages on Kayleigh's side. It's just my face. My little profile picture on Discord. Okay. So, guys, I think we are going to raid my very good friend Avery. Please stick around. She is an amazing human being, and I love her with all of my heart and soul. So, give her some love. Okay. I am okay. I just yeah, that story was a lot. It is something, like I said, that I don't talk about. Alex has seen the small thing in my house. He says it's 4 feet tall. That makes sense if it's a child. Alright. So you guys know what to do. Let's spam some emotes, guys. And go say hello. And everybody keep yourselves safe tonight. And I will see you guys over on Avery's stream. As soon as this decides to copy, that would be great.
Onions, ketchup, mustard, and bacon. Here's my fries.
All right, that's the ad you're hearing. Okay. I'm gonna wait for the ad. Okay, there we go. All right.
Spent enough money to make some money. By money, I mean Nook Miles. I mean, they're worth money. You know.